It's coming in from the conflict zone, the war zone, because even as the US-Iran peace talks have been stalled, tensions in the Strait of Hormuz are only getting sharper and bigger, with President Trump in his latest statement has issued another threat, escalating warnings around one of the world's most gripping and critical shipping way. Now, President Trump has said that he has ordered the US Navy to shoot and kill any boats that are laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, yet another direct threat that has come in for Iran, even as there is suspense over the possible second round of negotiation. Let's, in the meantime, talk about in this latest statement that President Trump seems to have been making over this threat that he is now given, saying that he is ready to shoot, and he's given the directions to the US military that will shoot any boat that seems to be laying the mines, and there will be no hesitation in opening fire, saying that we have already sunk over 150 of the Iranian ships, and also saying that when it comes to the US Navy, their minesweepers will be clearing the Strait of Hormuz, and he's now ordered 3 times faster mine clearing operations that need to be done in the Strait of Hormuz, because despite that, what has now been said, that the US naval blockade will continue, and President Trump says that he is in no rush to get this deal signed by the Iranian side. Now, in this breaking update, what we are learning, because the tensions that continue to simmer in the Strait of Hormuz, as there are reports of more mines that are now being laid, and the IRGC Navy that has deployed fresh mines in the Strait of Hormuz. This has now been reported on part of US intel, who have been now confirming that there has been fresh mine-laying activity, and that has now been done on part of the IRGC, saying that Iran has laid new naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz, and the shipping traffic has now collapsed sharply. So this is through the sources what we are picking up, because Shinjoy is joining us live this morning. Shinjoy, good morning. This seems to be the very factor, because Iran knows how to lay the mines but doesn't know how to remove them. And now it seems that they are adding more mines in the seabed.
Yes, that's of course a further problem, a further trouble for all the tankers and cargo ships. But if you actually think about it, Iran doesn't really need to lay those mines. Of course, if they do, it's an additional problem for tankers. But think about this. The Strait of Hormuz is a very narrow strait. And there, anything, any weapon will work, whether it's an anti-ship missile, and even if it's not an anti-ship missile, supposing it's a drone, a kamikaze drone, that will work very well. Even if you think of the attack on the Indian ships, all that was used was small arms, probably rifle fire, if you look at those bullet holes. And yet, they were a deterrent. Once you're being fired upon, regardless of how, who, which shipping company, which shipping captain will decide that, okay, my ship will go through the Strait of Hormuz. First of all, putting the crew in danger, putting that huge ship in danger, very valuable, and also equally valuable cargo. So regardless of whether there are mines, if the Iranians want to shut the Strait of Hormuz just by indiscriminately firing, or not even indiscriminately, just firing at 2 or 3 ships, then automatically it will cause enough
Well, coming
trouble.
under fire have been Indian ships as well, at least 3 of the incidents that have now been reported till now, because India has also reacted strongly to such incidents and actions that have been taken up by the Iranian side. But what has now been done on part of the US side is the clearing operations, and that is 3 times as faster in the speed that President Trump now seems to be ordering his Navy. However, what we are looking at as far as Strait of Hormuz is concerned, because the picture appears to be far more complex. While President Trump has been claiming that there is total control on part of US military, Iran is now asserting its own authority over the strait. And Iran has now claimed to collect its first revenue, the transit fees that has been imposed on ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian media have been now coming out to report and allege that initial proceeds have already begun depositing in the country's central accounts. And separately, multiple reports also claim that some vessels were already being charged informally, with fees reportedly going up to $2 million per tanker. That seems to be the monetization of the Strait of Hormuz that is now being done on part of Iran's side. Now, as far as will there be strikes again, will there be military action again on the Iranian side by US. Let's get you this another breaking update. What we are now learning that US still seems to be mulling strikes on Iran. As far as the Strait of Hormuz defense is now concerned, US military has now been drawing a contingency plan where they are now weighing the strikes if the ceasefire collapses. So ceasefire that has been extended, Srinjoy, but there is no deadline that has been set. And President Trump says that he is in no rush. He doesn't want the war to end, but he wants Iran to accept the terms and conditions, what the US says. However, Iran has denied that. So what are we now looking at? Is a military action still possible?
There are really two things here. First of all, after the war ended, the 40 days of fighting, both sides declared victory. Both sides then set terms and conditions the way victors do. And naturally, there's no similarity between the terms and conditions set by the Americans and set by the Iranians. That's the first problem. The second thing is, luckily, there is no time issue here. No one has said that the ceasefire is for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, so there is no additional pressure in some ways to arrive at a decision, arrive at a settlement within that period of time.
Yes.
So basically, both sides can put additional pressure in other ways, whether it's through economic warfare, whether it's in other ways, that can be done. The whole point is there is no fighting.
Yes.
But while there is no fighting, there is considerable pressure. These two blockades, two separate blockades, one by the Iranians, one by the Americans,
yes,
are both economic in nature. The
absolutely, and that is what is being named as Operation Economic Fury. I mean, that's the statement that came in from White House as well. Military operation is Epic Fury, but economic fury seems to be now that is going on with this U.S. naval blockade post the Strait of Hormuz blockade. But when it comes to the blockade is concerned, what do we see? Immediate impact is witnessed on markets, immediate impact that is witnessed on Brent crude prices as well. Now, what we are looking at, I mean, after the ceasefire that was announced for the first time in weeks, the Brent crude oil prices dipped below the $100 barrel per mark, and however, it has now crossed that as well, $106 per barrel mark as the oil prices have surged once again. Sharad Kohli is connected with us. Sharad, good morning. What do you mean to say as far as when it comes to the risks that continue to shake global markets, and this seems to be evident on the Brent crude prices as well?
Good morning, Amrita, and to you and the viewers. Yes, I think crude prices is a matter of great concern. In fact, more than the supply, it is the prices which are causing the concern, $105 plus now. And this is going to fuel inflation around the world. And, you know, when we talk on the Indian context, there was a Kotak report yesterday which said, which of course government has refuted, that the fuel prices might go up by 28 to 30 rupees after the elections and so on. So, I mean, leaving out the politics and the whole thing, it is true that the oil marketing companies, Hindustan Petroleum, Bharat Petroleum, Indian Oil, which command 90% of the retail fuel market, you know, they at some point, they will be under pressure. Their profit margins, shall I say losses, they will be under pressure to pass it on to the consumers. So the risk of inflation is very, very high. In fact, April inflation numbers, when they come out in May, I'm sure they're not going to be that pleasing, you know, for the consumers, because food prices, consumables, white goods, electronics, practically every aspect of life is going to be impacted. And that, for me, is the greatest concern around the world. I mean, militarily, whatever is happening in West Asia, of course, is very, very disturbing. But then more disturbing is the economic impact. And Strait of Hormuz, I think, has become the new, I would say, flashpoint for economics at this point of time, where the fuel prices are, getting a lot of impetus in terms of going up beyond level. And I think if they touch $120 to $125 in the days to come, it will ring alarm bells as far as the global economy is concerned. I have a fear that global economy is going to sink into recession if this stalemate continues for any longer, Amrita.
All right. Thank you very much, Sharath, for your point of view. Well, if that is a possibility, then it becomes a bigger concern, because in the weeks that we were witnessing the military action that was taking place, the Brent crude prices, however, did go up to at least $119 per barrel mark. Let's, in the meantime, get you a basic understanding exactly what has happened in the last, 4 weeks. Because when we talk about before the war situation to up to now, there has been a lot of volatility, a lot of activity as far as Brent crude prices are concerned. So the 27th of February, a day before the war, it was well below, even when it comes to $72.97 per barrel mark. And you can see the volatility that seems to be clear from the charts. And currently what we are now looking at as of 24th of April, despite a ceasefire on military action that has been announced, but there is an economic blockade, and that seems to be affecting when it comes to the Brent crude prices. We'll be looking at how the markets also open in, because across Asia and in India as well, markets have been opening on a weak front. So $106 per barrel mark seems to be the Brent crude prices that we are now looking as of now. In the meantime,